Okay, so this is Opine. We are going to look at how to design surveys in Opine, and we have ourselves a sample survey we are going to use. We're just going to use the first 6 questions just to help us walk through all the different scenarios. Well, not all, but most of the common scenarios we find in Opine or in survey design in general. So we have this survey, a sample consumer research survey. We're going to look at it, and normally with all surveys, you have to take a quick look at your survey so you can plan ahead of time and know which which questions will be in which form and which ones will go into another form. So if we look at this, we can see the first question is a single response, and all these ones, 2, 3, are all single response, and we see 4 is a multi-response question because it says check all that apply. So we have that in mind. 5 is a table. Now, Opine tables are treated a bit differently because tables deal with the form itself. So when it gets to table, it means you have to create a separate form to deal with the whole table, and we'll look at that. If you don't really get it now, when we get there, it will be clearer to you what that means. Okay, but at least we have a quick look at how everything works. Now let me move this to the side and then go into my main form. Okay, so in the main form, or let me just go back so you can see this. I've gone ahead and created a survey. So with the survey, you can see that there is one form in there. There are no variables. Variables are basically the questions that I'll be asking as we go. The record 0 means we've not submitted any responses to this survey, which is obvious because it's a fresh survey. So we go into forms and variables. So once we go, and this is where we start creating the forms and variables that we saw earlier. Okay, so in every survey you create always comes with the main form. The main form is the starting point. So when you are planning your survey, once you figure out which questions will be starting or which questions need to be asked every time. In a typical survey, you would have some questions that you ask on condition. And for example, if you're asking, okay, if select your gender, male or female, then you say that if the person is male, ask these questions. So it means that you want to ask a question like, if they are male, maybe what's your favorite football team? So that other question, favorite football team, is a sub question. Not everybody will be asked that because all those who select female will not be asked that, but everybody will be asked a question on gender. Okay, so the gender is going to be in the main form, but then the favorite football team will be in a sub form which the gender can reference. So that's how it works. So as part of a plan, you need to figure out what are the questions that I have to ask everybody, what are the questions that I ask based on certain conditions, and those questions that are based on conditions will have to move into separate forms so that you can pull them in as and when you need them when those conditions are met. So that's part of the planning that you do in your survey design. So here, unfortunately for us, all the questions you're asking, apart from the last question, they are all going to be in the main form because they are all questions you're asking everybody. So I'm just going to go into my main form, which is always created for you by default, and then we will see a few things. So we see a few things here. First of all, we see something here that is display as. Now this is very important when it comes to how you want your survey to be rendered. Now default basically means all the questions in the survey. Let's say in this form, let's say by the time I'm done with this, I have 5 questions in this form, this particular main form. If I want to ask them one after the other, I want them to be rendered on the screen one after the other. So the first question will be asked, and then you have to answer it and then move to the next question. If I want that, then I will say default. That's always the default behavior. If I want a situation where, let's say, all the 5 questions I have, I want them all to be displayed together in a list form. So let's say the first question is, what's your age? The second question is, what's your gender? The third question is, what's the color of your hair, and all that. I want all those 5 to be listed together in one view. Then I have to go for the list view. I have to turn this one and tell it that display this as a list, so it will all come together at a go. Now there are instances where you want to do that, and there are instances where you want the default view. And the table view which you saw it's a bit of a special case which we are going to treat with the last question that we have. So I'll deal with the table view when we get there. Okay, so now let's go. So we are going to use the default view for now. Let's start creating the various variables or questions. So we just click to add, and the first one we have is, let me just copy this. Let me copy this here. Okay, so the label says, who is the primary grocery shopper in your household? Okay, so we need to give it the label is the question that is what the person will see, and the variable name is what you are using at the back end to do your analysis. So I'm going to call it let's say primary shopper. So it's always good to give it simple names that will make sense, but they are not too long, so that it doesn't interfere with your dashboards and all those things that you create. But if it's also short but still human readable, you will always remember it when you see them on your dashboard. Okay, so that's it. Now I have to decide what type of data is it. It says check one, so it means that I'm going to pick a combo box or a single response, a single choice. It means that you can only select one. Now I have two options: exclude from data and then required. Required basically means the person has to answer it before they can proceed, so that the rendering screen will enforce that once I say it's required. Exclude from data views is something we look at when we are doing the tables, but normally sometimes when you are designing the form or the survey, there are some variables you create which we like to refer to as helper variables. They are not really variables you're going to analyze, but they help with the navigation of your survey. Sometimes to display instructions, sometimes to show or to help the user know what to do or where to go next and all that. So those ones you can, when you're doing anything like that, you can check this one to exclude from analysis, so that during the analysis phase those variables will be moved out, so they don't interfere with your analysis. But for example, in this case we are not doing that, so we are just going to leave that unchecked. Okay, so we have that. Now we go, this is a single choice, so we go in and add the option. So I just click on option, and I have the option label. That's what the person will see. In my options I have here yourself. I'll give it a value as, let me call it self, and then I'll say spouse. I could just pick the same thing. In fact, I could just use this as my values. Some people prefer to use 1, 2, 3 numbers as the values. Whichever one you want, you could use it depending on the way you do your analysis. Another option here is parents. I'm going to paste that and paste that. Okay, so I'm going to stick with these three, or if there's another one that says other. So let me take that and add here. Okay, so I'm just going to save. Now we save. I could save here, or I could go all the way up and hit save. Any of them will work for me. So I've just saved. I have the information that I've saved successfully. Now let me go ahead and do the second one. So I click new, and it will just give me a fresh form. The second question says, let me just copy that and bring it in. How many times do you go grocery shopping within the last 2 weeks? Okay, so let me call this times shopping, something like that is okay. Now the variable names are something you decide, so you can choose whatever makes a lot more sense for you to use. So I go, so this also required. Now the options here is 0, 1, 2, 2 and 3. So let me create them over here. This is also a single choice. Now let me go to the option. Here is 0, and then the option here is 0. I can go here and say here 1, just once a week. It says 2, between 2 and 3. Then here says 2 and 3. And then I have 4, 5, so I'll just use 4, 5 here. And then I can say above 5, and I'll just use the same thing here, above 5. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Okay, let me check everything is correct. Good. Alright, now again I hit new, and then I can go to my next one. It says copy this one and bring it in. Okay, what type of store do you usually do your grocery shopping? So let me call this store type. It's also required. Now the first one says natural organic food store. So let me choose this. Also a single choice. So label says natural or organic. Here natural or organic. I'll change this to with the values. You have to make sure you don't leave spaces in the values. So let me just use natural organic, something like this that I can see. And then I go to the next one, China supermarket. Okay, add another one, mass merchandiser. Okay, and then lastly, local or independently owned grocer. So let me see, local or independently owned grocer. So I will use this to be, let me call this local grocer. The shorthand. Okay, great. Alright, so I'm done with this. Let me save this. Okay, and then let me go to my next one. New. But here, this question is multi-choice because you can pick different things. So I'm going to use that one. It says, besides yourself, which of the following groups of people influence your purchasing decisions? So let me pick that question. Okay, let me call it purchase influencer. Purchase influencer. Also required, but this time is a multi-choice, so I can use that. I can say spouse, children, other family members. Let me use other family. Friends, and then let me look at colleagues, and then let me look at, okay, this is none, Alright, so I have all this. Now let me go ahead and save this. Great. Now, okay, so now I've done. Let's just go and take a look at what we've done so far. So I can do that. I can just click over here with in the breadcrumbs and go back to the main form and see how it looks like. When we started, it was blank. So now you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. The variable names are there. The labels are also there. We can see all of them here. Now here you can do a couple of things. Here you have these 2 icons here. This is duplicate. Duplicate basically means, well, let's say I want to do the same question and I want to maybe just change a few things about it, but I'm repeating the same question. Duplicate helps because when I click on duplicate, I can actually, it will basically create the same question for me and give me a different name, and I can just go ahead and edit it quickly. This is helpful for when you are sometimes repeating the same question over and over and changing just small things. So you can just do the question once and then use it several times. This will actually come in handy when we are doing the tables. So we'll see how we use something like this to do the tables. Okay, so now we can do all of this and then we are set. Now, earlier I said about when we are dealing with the table, which is our last question, we always have to get into the table. The table has to be a different form. So typically when we have to get into the table, what we do is we put one question in the main form that helps us to get into the table, or what we call branching. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to design another question which is going to be a helper variable, like I mentioned earlier. And this helper variable will help us get into the table, or will help the system navigate into the table. And I will explain that shortly. So let's just create a helper variable that says something like, this is going to be, I can just use a single choice and say, let me call it proceed to table. Now you could give it a better name depending on what you are doing. Let me see, let me call this let me use the question here to do it. This is the label that is there. Okay, as a grocery shopper, please rate them. In fact, I don't have to even put this here. I can take this off and use, okay, shopper. Let me call this shopper. Proceed to shopper. Sorry, shopper rating, something like that. And then I'll give an option here. Let's say okay, something like this, and then I'll save it. Now what's going to happen is, once you get to this stage, you're just going to see this question that tells you to proceed, and you get the okay that will help you to proceed. Now we'll come back to this and use this section to link this up. Now let's just save this one. Okay, so we are done with this for now. We'll come back to it. And let's go back to our forms. Now we're going to create the table or the form that's going to hold the table. So I'm just going to create a new table, and I'll call that let me call that shopper rating. In fact, I can put that question here. That question I copied. As a grocery shopper, please rate how important the following issues are on a scale of 1 to 7. On a scale of 1 to 7. Okay, so I'm just putting that in the label, and that's what you will see when we render that table. And most importantly, I'm going to change this from default to table. Alright, so I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the variables. And a lot of things we've done so far will start to come into play. Now let me just add one variable, and then we'll deal with the rest. So the first variable is okay, and we have 1, 2, 3 all the way to 8. They actually said 7, but they gave us 8 here. Okay, so no problem, we'll just do 7. Okay, we'll do 8 actually. It means you have to change that one back to 8. Okay, so we're going to create single choices, because looking at how this is designed, let me move this into the view so you can see it better. You can properly analyze this. So we are looking at this table here, and we can see how it works, that we're going to have very important, neutral, very important, unimportant, neutral, and all that, and we're also going to have the price, availability, package, and all those things. So we need to put these numbers and then the prices there for the people to be able to do the scale, so we can see, okay, which one is important, which one is not important. So we're going to try and do that. So for every item, say price, we need to give it a scale of 1 to 8. That's what we need to do in our table. So we're going to do that very quickly. So let me move this back. Okay, so now we create our tables, single choice, and I need the question to be, okay, price. And for price, let me also put the price here, and I need to give it these options of 1, because those are the things the person will select. 1, I'll give you 1 here. 2, 3, 5, 6, then we have 7. And lastly we have 8. Okay. Alright, so we have this this is a rating for price. And we need to do it for product availability, package scale, and all of that. So let's save this, and a lot of the things we've been talking about will start to come into play. Also, I want this to be required, so I'm going to save it as required and save it again. Now I can go back to this segment. Now here's what we have. You know, we have the price. Now we need to do this for product availability, package size, environmental friendliness, brand, and so about 7 more items. So let me remember and change this, because in the description they said 7, but in the actual thing they said 8. So let me change this to 8 and save again. Now instead of recreating every one of these items, these variables I need, is going to have that same scale, 1 to 8. They are going to be the same. So instead of redoing all of it again, what I can actually do is to duplicate the price, because they are all the same. This is where the duplication comes in. Duplicate the price 7 times and go in and change the names to whatever I want it to be, because they are all the same. So here I'm just going to go ahead and use the handy tool duplication. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 7 does it. Even if I make a mistake and I create 8, I can always go and delete, so that's not a problem. So now I can open this one and say that, well, you are not price, you are going to be product availability. Let me copy this. You'll be here. Product availability. Product availability is here, like that. It's a required form, and because I duplicate this, you can see that all these are already there. I don't have to do much. I just have to save it, and that's done. Then I can go in, pick another one. In fact, another shorthand way of doing this is open all of them together. So I like normally to do hold my control, and then I press control this, control that, that, and this. So I have all of them opened, and I can come here and pick this one and change it. So this is just another way of being able to work really fast. So I can change this and change it here. Remember to remove the space over here, and this is done. Anything else? So yeah, I can save this one, and then I can close it. Then have another one ready for me. Environmental friendliness. Okay, so I can put it here and here. Okay, everything else is okay. Then save and close. Then I look at the brand. Just replace this and that. Then I can save it and close it. Okay. Then the next one is social responsibility. Okay. Okay, everything else good. I can save it. And you can see because I opened all of them, it's moving really fast. Let me see. Product manufacturing, where the product is made. How can I recapture this? Let me say manufacturing location. Okay, so I'm going to save this one. And quality is the last one. I can close this one. Yeah. Okay, so you can see my numbers were correct, so I get exactly the number I need. Okay, so that's that, and I can save this. I can close this one, and then refresh this side, and then I'll be able to reload the page. Let me just go back and come into the page. Okay, so I come back into the page, and everything has changed nicely. Now we are not quite done yet. What I need to do now is to go back to the main form, because remember, this was supposed to link us to, we created a question that was supposed to link us to this place. So what I need to do is come here and go open that question, the proceed to, and say that, okay, if someone clicks OK on this, proceed to this survey as a grocery shopper rating that particular survey. So I select this, and so anytime we are running the survey and someone gets to this point, and remember here, the only option I'm providing for is the OK, so the person will have no choice than to select the OK. In fact, I can make it a requirement also, so that they will have to select it, and then I save. And that's it. I have been able to create the two forms, and I've linked them up, so when the person goes through, they're going to be able to save, and they're going to be able to branch into the table and then let everything work as supposed to work. So in the next video, I will show you how everything looks like when we are running it on the device. Hope you enjoyed this.